Okay, exercise 8C is called factorising. Factorising is the opposite of expanding. So when we had this expression here and we expanded it, 3 times x is 3x, 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, we went that way. If we were to start with 3x minus 6 and go back to put it back into the brackets, we would be factorising. We're doing the opposite. So I've written some steps out over here. We put the highest common factor in front of the brackets, and then we divide that factor out and put what's left over inside the brackets. If the first term is negative, put a negative out the front. We're going to factor out a negative. So let's have a look here. So we want to look at common factors of 6x and 36. Now 2 is a common factor, but it's not the highest common factor. They can both be divided by 2. They can also both be divided by 3. Again, it's not the highest common factor. The highest common factor is 6. So that goes out the front. 6 is the highest common factor. And then we write the brackets, and then we divide out that 6. Or you could say, what do I multiply by 6 to get 6x? So it's kind of like expanding in reverse. So 6 times something equals 6x, that must be x. And if I was dividing 6x divided by 6 just gives me x. Minus 36 divided by 6 is 6, or you could say 6 times what equals 36? 6 times 6. Okay, let's try this one. So highest common factor at the front. Now 2 and 3 are both primes. They don't have a common factor, but both of these terms have got x's in them. So I'm going to put an x out the front. Write my brackets and then put the leftover stuff inside. So I've used one of these x's already. I still have another x there and I still have a 2 there. So 2x minus, I haven't used that 3 yet. I've already used the x, so I don't write that again. X times 3 is 3x. Okay, remember if the first term is negative, I put a negative out the front. Now let's look at what these two things have got in common. 5 can go into both of them, so 5 will be up the front. They've both got an a, so I also need an a out the front. And then I write my brackets. So negative 5a is my common factor. I've used the negative, I've used the 5, I've used the a. I do have a b left there. I've already used the negative, so this will actually be a positive. And negative times a positive makes that negative. I've used 5. If I divide that, 10 divided by 5 is 2. I've already used the a, I don't write it again. Okay, this one's a slightly tricky one, but it's actually not as bad as it looks. What we can see here is that this whole thing and this whole thing have an x minus 2 in common. So, and that's in brackets. I'm going to put it in brackets still. The x minus 2 is my common factor that goes out the front. So that's the equivalent of this negative 5a. And then I put my brackets for all the leftover stuff. I've used the x minus 2. I put the 3x in the bracket, plus in the middle. I've used the x minus 2. I put the 2 in the bracket. So that's the factorized form of this. Okay, let's look at this one, just a couple more examples. So remember, if the first one is negative, we put a negative. 7 and 14, the highest common factor there is 7. We've got an m squared here and we've got an m there. They've both got at least one m in them. So I'll put an m out the front. I can't put an m squared out the front because this doesn't have an m squared, it's only got an m. They've both got an n, so I'll put that out the front as well. Brackets. Now have a look at what I've used here. I've already used the minus 7. I've used one of the m's. I've got another m. If I'd had an m squared here, I may just end up with 1 here, but that's okay. I've already used the n, so just an m. I've put a minus out the front. So this, we say what times a negative makes a positive? That's a negative. So negative times negative makes a positive. So it's kind of like we're working backwards. I've used 7. I needed 2 because 2 times 7 is 14. I've already used the m and the n, so I don't write those again. This last one has 3 terms, so it just means there are going to be 3 things inside the brackets in this case. All of these can be divided by 3, so 3 out the front. They've all got an a, so a out the front. That's all they've got in common. This one, what times 3a makes 12a? That's 4. 3a times 4 makes 12a. Plus, I've already used the 3, I've already used the a, I've got a b, minus 3 times what equals 6, that's 2. I've already used an a, I've got another a, so I need to write another a. A times a gives me a squared.